I need to gather some more things before I can start. Okay. Okay. Hello. Hey Nancy. Welcome to the next step. Attaching the handles. So, I have my handles ready. Y'all have been through the journey of these mugs from the very start, some of you. So, hi. So, I'm going ahead and attaching handles now for all those mugs that I've been making. Lots of slipping and scoring because this is really important. You don't want your handles to fall off anytime during the process of firing or during the process of using it. And then correctly shaping the handle so that it is just right. There we go. There. That's a nice comfortable handle, so that's good. So I have a feeling that that camera is doing a mirror image. Instagram is doing it right. But that looks weird to me every time I look at. Let me try something. The webcam. I have a feeling it does a mirror image, which is very confusing to me. Color range, video format, configure video. Let's see this. No. No. Hold on just a second. Flip vertically. Am I upside down now? Yes, I'm upside down. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. Well, I don't know how to. Transform. Flip horizontal. Okay. There, I feel things are better now. Okay. So am I supposed to look at everything like a mirror image, or is it supposed to be opposite? I'm very confused with video capture. Okay, I'm going to raise my right hand and People on Facebook, let me know whether you think it's my right hand or my left hand. So this is my right hand. What do you see it as? Oh, actually now, hmm. So the laptop camera is also, let me, I don't know why I'm getting all flustered right now. All these, while I was fine with it, but suddenly I feel that it's not right. Okay, so this is my right hand. Do you see that as my right hand in both the images or no? Or do you think this is my left hand? Oh, this appears as my left hand? But this is my right hand. Yes. So this looks like my left hand on Instagram. Okay. So it means I need to. Huh? You're confusing me now. Okay. Which hand is this of mine? Is this not your, whether you see it as my right, like, is this my right hand or is this my left hand? Which hand is this? Which hand? Come on, I need more than one people telling me this. It's on the right of the screen, but it looks like your left. Oh, okay. So if I flip the images on, I can't help the Instagram thing because, um, hmm, okay. Sorry about the mix-up because suddenly I'm just going to flip both of them. Transform, flip. Okay. Hopefully this is my right hand and you see it as my right hand. On Instagram, it's okay. Yeah. So on Instagram, I think because I'm doing in the selfie mode, it automatically reverses it, and I don't know how to fix that. So so now this looks like my right hand. Now which hand is this? This is my right hand. Which hand is this? Oh well, I'm right-handed. So if you see me working and think I'm left-handed, that means the image is flipped around. Still looks like the left. Yeah, I think on Instagram it is all flipped. I can't change it on Instagram, but I am actually looking for people. Okay, Ellen, it's my right hand. I'm looking for people who are seeing it on Facebook and YouTube because in there you have multiple views, and I was wondering if I'm flipping them the image the wrong way or what. So anyway, technology, right? So anyway, now is a process of attaching the handles to the mugs. And actually I'm missing something here, which is again a small ergonomic thing which needs to happen. And I'll do that now. economic thing that needs to be done, which may also provide a better view to some people who are watching at home, is just to raise this platform a little bit so you can see, or you can even see this better. So yeah, this is much better. It is just to raise the height of my table by a little bit, and it just makes it easier for me to position the handles rather than me bending over and checking whether I've put it in the right spot. Small things. And whenever one is attaching things like handles or different parts of clay together, you need to make sure that the moisture content of both those pieces of clay is more or less the same. It's hard to tell whether it's exactly the same. It doesn't need to be exactly the same, but if it is too far apart, then there are chances of cracking. And especially with handles, you need to be extra careful. You don't want handles cracking. So hello, welcome to everyone who's joining in. I am attaching handles to my mugs. There is not much to this process. There is a lot to the process, but if you have any particular questions, feel free to ask. But I was procrastinating all day. Should I do the handles now? Should I do them later? Should I do them now? Should I do them later? I said, the only way to get them done is if I go live. Then I'll get them done and I'll be free for the evening. So since this morning, after I put the buttons on my mugs, I did some crocheting and did some knitting on my sweater, which is almost done. but I need to attach a zipper now, and I the stores are closed, so I cannot go in and shop around for a zipper. So the tool for smoothing out. You mean this guy? That's just a paintbrush. Nothing special about it. Just a really, really old paintbrush, which has honestly changed its shape over time. Is that what you're asking about? Yeah, so I use the brush to first wet the surface of the clay. Then I use this tool, which is basically a fine tooth comb, to scratch the surface at the two places where I'm going to join the mug. And since I make the same mug so many times, um, you know, yeah, it's clay. It's the simplest of tools, and sometimes when I try to recollect how old a particular tool is, it's really surprising to me that I have been using that same tool for so long. Like that brush, I think it's probably 10 years old or something. I've been using just that same brush for doing the exact same thing. I don't use that brush for anything else. It just sits over there for making handles and cleaning up the edge. This particular tool, which I've used for scoring and cutting my handle short uh, to size and all of that, this I purchased. I would I started using this kind of tool, I would say around 5 years back or so, and I really like it a lot. But the one thing is that, and because I like it a lot, I use it a lot. And I will just show you what happens when you use the same tool for a very long time. And I'm pretty good about not losing my tools or anything. They all have a place where they go, so they don't get misplaced easily. Okay, so let me show you this exact same tool which I replaced with that one. So just clean it up. Though even this one is getting bad. But so this is after so this one, you see that? Okay, see the Instagram camera is off, but okay, yeah, now you can see it nicely on that camera. So you see how worn out the edges are of these teeth? They're almost smooth out there. So this I used for almost 3 years or 4 years, and then I had to get another one. So that's the newer one where they are so much more sharper. So now you can see them in comparison. So let me put it against my dark t-shirt background. See? And look at the shape in which it wears out. See? Can you see on Instagram too? There you go. So the top one is the old one, and the bottom one is a new. So yeah, they wear out. I still don't feel like throwing it away because I do have the fear of losing a tool, even though I don't lose tools. But apparently, whenever I use it to scratch the surface, I do land up scratching more on the inner side and use the outside teeth a little less, so it wears out like a U shape. And then eventually, it doesn't make like that one. For so many pieces, it doesn't make scratch marks, it makes them all uneven, so I had to stop using them. Yeah, it is surprising, clay being all soft and everything, like how much it corrodes the tools and changes its shape over the years. And even my knives, now actually you cannot tell the difference, but whenever I buy them new, it's amazing as to how much I've worn out a knife. Just feels like a stub after some time. And this is like a regular metal knife. I can show you the two that I have right now. They both are probably pretty similar looking now because neither one of them is new. I keep exchanging, going back and forth between these two. So let me show you that. And I think I had posted a picture some time back when I had gotten a knife. But you see this knife? So they both are pretty similar. Only one is just slightly longer than the other right now. So that one is slightly longer out there. But when it starts off, it's like around almost 3/4 or half an inch longer than what it is right now. That's how much the knife gets worn down. Pretty amazing. All signs of tools getting used well. That's all it is. Do you all know if knitting needles also get worn out like that? I'm sure they do. I have seen some old needles where the coatings of the needles have worn out. I don't know if it happens often now because we just end up buying so many needles. Also, knitting needles wear out too. I'm sure they do, right? Especially like at metal on metal or even wooden ones. If you're uh, rubbing them against each other, I think they're bound to wear out. Or at least the tips might just change and look different than what they were once since they were new. Okay, the setup mark is done. Let's put it on the next set. People on Instagram are so quiet this evening. In the morning, they are very chatty. Very chatty people on Instagram in the morning. How long I've been knitting? I've been knitting since 2016 or 2015, so maybe like 5 years. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I know I marked it on my Ravelry thing, so I'll have to check. But yeah, it's around about that time. Maybe 2013. No, it can't be 2013. 2011. Now it's 2020. No, definitely not. So it's 2015, I believe. So 5 years. Could have been 2014 December or something. But I know it was during the holiday season that I started, and I made my, you know, first square swatch watching a YouTube video out of piece of jute that I had lying around and a pair of chopsticks. And yes, it surely is a very magical thing, and I'm glad I found the craft of knitting. And yeah, I remember I made that square. Then a friend of mine told me that I need to use real yarn, so she gave me some yarn and knitting needles. And then I made a scarf out of that and gifted that to my niece. And right after that project, I went to the big box store and got yarn for a sweater, and by that Christmas, I had finished my sweater. And took me like 3 weeks or so, and I still wear that sweater. It's my studio sweater though. It's an acrylic, so I can, just wash it in the washing machine and stuff. So when it gets really cold in the studio, you'll see me wear that. But now it's definitely getting warmer here, so it's not that bad. People are so quiet. Ellen is the only one talking to me, which is fine. Thank you. I'm glad you like my hat. The hat is the Langfield pattern by Martina Bem, and the yarn is hand spun by me, uh, and it is woolwork and silk. So it's a very comfy hat. Like I wear it around the house too. So it is very meditative. I think, there is a connection of working with fiber and clay, which is very similar. You're just lurking, which is fine, Hobby Meg. Lurking is absolutely fine. Yes, I spin too. I do enjoy spinning quite a bit, and it's usually this time of the year is when I feel like spinning more than knitting. So these days I'm craving to spin again. Nobody lets the dogs out. There must be somebody in a cul-de-sac. We have a very quiet neighborhood because we are in a cul-de-sac, and occasionally if a car or a neighbor does come by, he is like all alert, letting us know there's somebody in the neighborhood. So that's Casper, always being protective. Woof woof. Exactly. It's weird, like sometimes, like I'm sure you all heard it, that's why you all commented about it, but you get so used to certain sounds that like I didn't even hear it almost. Means I kind of heard it, but like yeah, there must be somebody there. No big deal. Earlier it used to startle us every time because we never had pets. So So here we have some knitted patterns, embroidery patterns, all kinds of mugs which are going to go into the next firing, and then they'll all be glazed. Since you see on my online shop, I'm mostly out of all kinds of mugs. So if you want one made to order, you can do that, and I can glaze these in whatever color has been requested. But once this whole lot gets glazed, then it'll be another 4 to 6 week turnaround time. Why do I put the plastic mug in the mug? Good question. So you must have noticed that my mugs are not thrown on the wheel. They are hand built from slabs of clay. Now clay is such that it has memory and it wants to be in the shape that it initially was. So if I had thrown them on the wheel, they would have been thrown round. The clay particles are aligned in the round, so they try to remain round at all times. But since my clay was made out of slabs, and in that the clay particles are aligned straight, uh, it wants to go back to its straight form. Not really straight, but it kind of wants to move away from the round shape that I'm trying to push it in. So if I don't, you know, keep, I don't know the right word, keep coaxing it into like the round shape again and again. So every step of the time, every time I touch a mug and keep it aside, I keep reminding it, you need to be round. You need to be round. Don't turn square. So that makes sure that my mug remains perfectly round all throughout. So when I'm attaching buttons, I do it. When I attach the bottom of the piece, when I do it. When I attach handles, I do it. So there are so many times throughout the process where it is reminded that you need to be round. And that's what helps maintain that round structure. I hope I answered your question. There was another question just now on YouTube. Have you ever been to New York Sheep and Wool Festival? No, I haven't. I have applied for it. I think I applied for it maybe 2 or 3 years back, and it's really hard to get in because there are veterans doing it for so many years, and they have only so much space to do it. So if I do ever get the opportunity to do it, I would, but seems like it would be really tough to get in. So far I've not. So I applied it that one year. They put me on the wait list, and I didn't get in. And that time of the year, I have usually been getting really busy with wholesale orders to yarn shops. So it would mean me traveling all the way to New York with all that inventory, plus time away from studio. So it kind of never felt necessary for me to go there to do the show. But times are changing. We'll see what is there in the future. Maybe I might be able to do that show in the future. Who knows? Right now, I'm just focusing on what I can do right now. Nice, makes very much sense. Good. Yeah, the thing with hand building is, and you realize that throughout the process of making a lot of mugs, because then you realize that, oh, why did my mug now suddenly become oval in shape? And some of them still do become slightly oval, which I think is fine because, it's the nature of a handmade product. It's not going to be complete perfection. But at the same time, I don't want it to become so oval and weird looking that when you look at it, you feel something is wrong. So it's in order to avoid that kind of feeling is that you want to keep pushing it to, hey, try to be as round as possible as you can be. And I mostly do it, I do it now, so it's the last thing before I put it on the shelf, because while putting the handle, I might have distorted the roundness a little bit, but before putting on the shelf, I remind it round again, and then I don't lift it from up here, I lift it from down here, so I don't distort it anymore. And after this, I'm not going to be messing with it. Now they are done, now they'll just dry and then go in the kiln. So I'm not going to touch it, I'm not going to move them from one shelf to another. They're all just going to stay on the board on which they are kept. Many ways, like there are, it's like if you keep overworking and over touching it and all, that's not good either. Clay is very finicky like that. It remembers everything. It has a lot of memory. And in that way, I feel like yarn and fiber are similar in so many ways, because fiber too has memory. Especially if you spin, you would know. Yeah, that's the whole charm of handmade looks, that there are some oddities about it which give it its charm, that not every piece is exactly the same. And like handles too, like all these handles have, they are pretty much very similar looking. Like if I showed you all the handles, maybe you couldn't even tell two apart. Um, so, but in the process of attaching them and everything, each one is just very slightly different from the other. And that's why I tell people, it's nice when you can kind of feel the mug in your hand and know it's the right one. And I try to make them all as similar as possible so people even purchasing online can be sure it'll be as comfortable as the previous mug they purchased. So that's the goal anyway. Only three more of these small mugs. See, making attaching handles also doesn't take a whole lot of time, I feel. Any other questions? Why I do what I do? Okay. Oh, I got some questions here. Do you make the smaller kinds or just the kind of mugs with different prints? I do make smaller mugs as well. Yes, and I do make knit designs on my mugs too. Yeah. So this is like the knit design which you're seeing out here. Can you see it on the other camera too? So, yeah. And yeah, I make smaller cup designs too. If you look in my Instagram bio, there is a link tree which links you to my website and all the other places where you can see the smaller cups and the bigger mugs and all of them. This is my most popular size mug, which is the 16-ounce mug. I call it my big coffee mug, and it is the most popular size that I sell. So I do land up making more of this than anything else. And I have uh, three other sizes. Two of them which are smaller than this. One of them has a handle, the other one doesn't have a handle. And then I have a size that's bigger than this, which I'm going to be putting handles on pretty soon. That's the jumbo 20-ounce mug. And this popular size mug ends up being this size after it's been glazed and matches my hat. How cool is that? See, that's a perfect match. So you can match your knitting with your mug. Oh, that's a nice collection to have. Yeah, being a potter myself, I also have uh, mugs from all different people. I have no two mugs looking the same. Yes, the clay definitely dries up my hands a lot. And hand building, especially because if you're on the wheel, at least your hands keeps getting wet. But the clay sucks moisture out of your hands and makes them very dry. It is a little bit of a disadvantage when I have to go back and forth between um, clay and fiber because you know, with fiber, if your hands are rough, it is not a pleasure to knit or spin because the fiber gets caught into the scaly hands of yours. So there is just a lot of moisturizing involved, back and forth. So as soon as I wash my hands, I will moisturize, and only then I'll be able to do anything with clay. Yes, I do knit up. Well, I don't knit the design, I actually carve those designs on the pieces. Not on the pieces as such, but on my master slab. So there's no real knitting involved, but a really good understanding of knitting. And if you look on my website, there are mugs with different patterns, like there is a lace knit pattern as well. That's a very popular pattern. And I don't know if I have any finished pieces. I might have maybe one or two finished pieces. But you can see pictures on my website of how the lace knitted mugs look. They look pretty cool, I think. So, so I do all kinds of knit patterns, woven patterns, embroidery patterns, but they are all very fabric related. It's because I like the fiber crafts. So, and after this round of making mugs, I think the next videos I am going to do more focused on um, fiber crafts. How about that? Would that be interesting? Okay, you have one of my lace knit mugs, and oh, that's wonderful. What color do you have? Natural stain look on glazes and all white. Yes, the natural stain. I have some pieces in which I do like a wash, mostly on the embroidery mugs. And so that I think the embroidery mugs do look pretty neat with those washes. On the knit mugs too, I do it, but the thing what happens also, like they look good, but it's not very consistent. Oh, you got the purple lace mug. Yeah, the purple is just so popular with the lace. So yeah, what I was saying is when I do washes and then put a glaze over it, those colors are not very consistent, which makes them all the more unique because each one lands up being slightly lighter or darker, which is pretty cool. But so at shows and everything, it's fine because people can see exactly what they're getting. But if I'm selling online, it becomes really hard for me I don't want to picturize a really dark wash kind of piece and then send in a lighter wash, because then, a person might be expecting that, oh, it was much bluer than what I thought I would get, because you're not very consistent piece to piece. So, like even the lace mugs, they do get a wash on them, but I try my best to be very consistent throughout. But again, there are some light and dark, and I mentioned that in my listing as well. So these are the big jumbo mugs, 20 ounces. Nobody should be drinking that much coffee. And oh yes, there was that comment on clay drying up your hands. Yes, it definitely dries up your hand, and in addition, this is what is happening with the excessive hand washing. Can you see that? My hands are turning red. They are drying out extra. Thank you, Jennifer. The hat is the Langfield pattern by Martina Bam, and it is knit with my hand spun Pulworth and silk. And I need to get um, some royalty money for every time I mention that pattern. I think I mentioned that almost like 4 or 5 times in every live feed that I do or wherever I go. Um, it was funny. I was at a grocery store once, and then the cashier mentioned that, oh, I really like your hat. And I'm telling them the name of the pattern as though they are a knitter, and they're like, what is it? And I was like, oh, it's a Langfield pattern. And they're like, but what is that? I'm like, I realize that I'm not at one of my shows. I'm not talking to a knitter. They have no idea what a knit pattern is. So it happens. I pack extremely well uh, with lots of packing peanuts and paper. I don't like bubble wrap because bubble wrap essentially, honestly, it's not really safe. From my understanding, because I've been shipping my work for the last 14, 15 years now. And I have not had many breakages. I won't say I haven't had any. I've had a few, and it's usually happened when I have packed multiple pieces in one box. But now I've been doing now wholesale for so many years that even that has not been an issue. So breakage usually has happened, and in the very recent, I remember it happened like maybe last year. Was for a big platter. It was a big flat piece, and there was a chance. So it must have been dropped like really badly. So it just messed it up. So that was partly maybe packaging or maybe the box was dropped. But like mugs and things like that, I haven't had till date a single mug break in shipping. But now that I've said it, it'll be the next one that breaks. So, Murphy's Law. And I think at some point, several years back, I'd made a blog entry as well on how I pack my work because people were curious. And it's one of the most hit up posts on my blog. How do you pack pottery? Yeah. So how do you round the top of your mug? What do you use? So what I've been using is the tool which is right in front. I will show it to you. The most expensive tool I have in the studio. I'm just kidding, it's not. But I'll show you what it is. Okay, I need to straighten that handle. That went a little bit skewed. That's not fun. especially for a big mug. You don't want a skewed handle. There. The handles are extruded just for the basic shape and then they are pulled. So I don't like the look of just plain extruded handles. They don't look very natural. I like them thicker on top and then thinning down out here. That makes for a much uh, comfortable handle to hold. So, okay. Okay, rounding the top. Who was it that asked me? How do you round the top? Deborah, right? That's my most expensive tool, my Elmo cup and Big Bird Sesame Street cup. Take that, put that in there, remind the mug that it needs to be round, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Now this is a big jumbo mug with a knit pattern. Hi Mary, yeah, this is like school, right? Oh, that is so cool. You know, I have a piece of uh, clay on my screen, which I think I should wipe it away, which covers up the comment, and it looked like that's school. And I said, yeah, that is school. I am teaching as though this is school, but it is school as well, right? So, anyway. And surprisingly, my big jumbo mugs don't weigh any much more than my regular 16-ounce mug. It's just very slightly more in weight. And the main reason was that, people liked my 16-ounce mugs, but there were always people who said, I want a really big mug. I'd like a really big mug. I can, of course, make as big a mug as you want, but it needs to be practical. If it's so heavy just by itself, then once you fill it with liquid, it'll be even more heavier. So, what's the point? No, I actually carve the texture of the knit pattern on my master slab, and then that's kind of used like a mat to impress the clay, and that's what creates the knit pattern. Because there is no, well, I have seen there are some ready-made knit pattern stamps, but they look very precise, machine made, and then the knit pattern just doesn't look good. Means it looks nice, but it's just like, doesn't look handmade. And yeah, after I started making these mugs with the knit pattern, I've seen several potters do that as well, using that ready stamp, but their mugs don't look like mine because these stamps I make myself. They're all hand carved by me. So it is a lot of work. Yeah. So that's how the mug is. And it gives me this nice crisp texture. And if you look very carefully, each stitch is slightly different. So it gives that very hand knit feel to it, which is what I like. Five more mugs and then we are done. Yeah, that is a lot of work, but maybe I should be charging more for my work. Yeah, I don't know. I still get looks from people when they look at the prices of my work, but it is a lot of work. I cannot price it very low because if y'all have seen me through this week of this journey of making, and I didn't make, this is not my regular production. This has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. This is like 20, 26 months. This is like one third of my regular production. So in a week, usually I'm making 60 to 70 mugs. So this is like hardly anything. And when I'm making that many mugs, that's the reason why I've not done too many live videos, is because um, it takes a lot of time, and then the videos and the chatting and stuff takes a little bit extra time. But these days we are all stuck at home, so might as well chat, have some company, and make some fun things. Any other questions? What type of clay do I like to use? So the clay I use is a stoneware clay. It's a very porcelain-like stoneware clay. It's not, um, you know, it's not it's not a porcelain, but it's not like 100%. Well, it categorizes as a stoneware, but it's not rough like a stoneware. It's very smooth and very whitish like a porcelain. So it's kind of a nice blend of the two, but essentially it is a stoneware clay, yeah. But when I mention stoneware to some people, they think it's like this real rough brown kind of weird clay. It's not like that. The reason I like this clay is because it's very flexible for if I want to throw on the wheel, hand build with it, do sculptural work with it, decoration work. My glazes show up really nice on it, and yeah. So, oh hi Vivek, how are you? I don't know. I must be chatting with you after. Oh God, now it's 16 years. Ugh. Small world, huh? So yeah. So yeah, that's the clay that I use, and I think the like with yarn, or with fiber or clay as such, the more you just use that one material again and again, you realize its limitations and how to work with it. Okay, good question. What got you working into clay? So what got me working into clay? When I was in India, I was very interested in working with clay, and I always had this creative side in me. But I was, studying my engineering and doing what every Indian kid was supposed to do: study, 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 and nothing else. But and I did try to learn from some people there, but it was just very hard to do anything in clay. So I did go to some areas on the outskirts of the city where there were some potters, and they were just shocked that I was there asking about clay. And so when they gave me some bone dry clay which hadn't been fired, like maybe around 5 pounds of it or something, and I used that 5 pounds of clay for almost 3 years. I kept making things with it and recycling it and making things and recycling it, and that's what kind of started it. Okay, I think I have only 30 seconds left on Instagram, and I'm going to start a new video again. And I see another question there. So I'm going to start the live feed again on Instagram because it lets me do only an hour at a time. So go ahead and join me soon, okay? but I might get cut off any second now. And then I'll answer your question, Hobby Meg. I'll just wait for everyone to join in again. Okay, there we go. Hi, Keston. Are you excited about movie night tomorrow? Okay, I think that handle should work. To move it slightly above. Okay, is Hobby Meg back? Okay, good. So your question was what? Yeah, what tool do I use for cutting the clay? Are you talking about this tool right here? Hello, Fiber Gallery. Megan, is that you online? Hello, hello. Do we know the title and the time yet? The title I had posted on that Facebook post. The movie we are watching is Queen tomorrow. What do you do with the leftover clay? Oh, what do I do with all this leftover clay? All of this is I can recycle it. And I can recycle it. I do have a big pug mill, not a big one, but it can, all the clay gets recycled. I don't throw away the clay, but also at the same time, the recycled clay pile keeps building up. So right now I have maybe close to 600 to 700 pounds of clay that needs to be recycled. So um, it will happen eventually. Maybe this is the time I need to take to recycle clay, and that's what I plan to do. And I'm kind of embarrassed to show you the view of my recycled clay part because there's a lot of it. I make my own glazes, so I like to know what's going in my glaze, so I can be 100% sure that they are lead free, food safe. They are going to work with my clay body. If I need to make adjustments, I can make adjustments or whatever. So I prefer to make my own glazes, my own colors, all of that. So yes, Gaston, the movie has been decided. Oh, the sound is scratchy today. Oh, I'm sorry. Nobody else mentioned it. The microphone is where it usually is. Maybe they are, uh, you know, restricting a quota on digital since so many people are online all the time. Okay, so yeah, the movie we have chosen to watch is Queen, which is tomorrow. Most likely it's going to be 8 o'clock. It's either going to be 6 or 8. I know, Keston, you did mention 8 as being your preferred time, but I'm going to look over the entire list and I'm going to post early tomorrow morning what time we are going to play the movie. So this is Netflix party where everyone can join in and we can all watch the same movie at the same time. So uh, my voice is fine, but there is a static in the background. That could be the sound from the laptop. Uh, it could be the fan from the laptop, and I cannot help that unless I keep my laptop a little further away, but then it'll be hard for me. No, I can still read. Is that any better, Jennifer? So yeah, that's another handle gone on. Nice, I like the way that came out. So even though I'm making the same kind of mug over and over again, I'm already have a preference of one handle over the other. Okay, you can hear me fine. Keston, is the sound any better now? Is the static reduced to some extent? I hope it has. Okay, so you can do anytime. Yeah, good. To YouTube, so the scratching is happening there and on Facebook. Hmm, I don't know why is that. I'm going to try something next time. No, that's. Mm, I'll have to see. So this is all like new, trying to figure out what works best and what situation. So you'll see. I have some ideas I can try. Okay, I'm fine. Okay, good. Here, that, what? Okay, as long as you can hear me fine now, it's fine. I'm on my last mug anyway, so. Okay, now there is no scratching at all. Yeah, what all I did is I moved my laptop really further away from the microphone. So the microphone and the high def camera is the same. So I just moved my laptop further away so I can keep that on the side. So these are not pictures, believe it or not, these are mugs, and I know this should be pictures. This is all people insisting that they need bigger and bigger mugs to drink coffee. I think people should get up more from their chair and go to the coffee pot. But these are 20-ounce mugs, and I started making them last year or the year before. And every show I take them to, I sell out of them. Knitters need to control how much coffee they drink. And I've gotten requests for 24-ounce mugs as well, which I think is ridiculous. I don't think I'll go bigger than these. So these are huge, gigantic mugs. But oh well. Okay, just tiny spurts of static, but it's much better. Yeah, that much I think we'll have to live with. Because I cannot shut down the fan of my laptop completely, and I cannot move my laptop really far away because then I cannot read comments. See, Keston is one of them. She has several of these big 20-ounce mugs, and she's like, that's a good cup of iced tea. Yes, it is, but for iced tea, it's good. For drinking water, I can see it. But that is it. Anyway, I am done putting handles on these mugs. So next time around, I think I will be doing some fiber related stuff tomorrow. Uh, Not any of the clay stuff because now these things have to dry. Uh, and once they are dry, we'll do a loading of the kiln and all of that if there's any interest in that. So thank you everyone for joining in. It was nice to see everyone again, and I will see y'all next time. Bye. And bye everyone on Facebook and on YouTube.